The Thinite nobles still struggle to unite the lands of the Nile under one supreme ruler. To aid them in their cause, it is hoped that you will endeavor to establish a thriving community at Perwadjyt, in the humid delta region of Lower Egypt, thus spreading their influence throughout the length of the sacred river. To support a population larger than that of a village, you must learn to use agriculture. Egyptian farmers have begun to exploit the rich, fertile soil deposited by the annual inundation of the Nile River for growing crops. The Nile can be hazardous, however. Many dangers lurk along its banks and in its waters, such as deadly crocodiles, hippopotamuses, and malaria-carrying mosquitoes.
Cool. So we're going to start with farming in this episode. As it says, many dangers lurk along its banks and its waters. Crocodiles, hippos, and mosquitoes. So we only have to worry about mosquitoes. Crocodiles and hippos are not here, which is nice. So we must build farms on the floodplains to gain the benefits of increased fertility. So there's going to be floods basically every year on the Nile, and all this kind of brown stuff on the side, which we'll get to. Take a look at now. This is where you can build farms on the Nile. So we'll go ahead and we'll probably build as close to the coastline as possible, because the level of flooding every year varies. Some years they'll be all the way to here, but most of the time it'll be kind of to here. This kind of light-ish brown here. It'll stop at that point. So we want to try to get the dark brown as much as possible for our farms. So we'll go ahead and actually place these down straight away. Just try to plan it out a little bit. So I'll leave a little bit of a gap here for a road to come in. And we'll just place along as close to the edge as we can, leaving room for road access on these guys. So put one there, and five is probably good. But keeping in mind that we actually only get one harvest per year from these, it might be worth just placing down a couple of extra. I actually don't think we get a harvest in time. Let me have a look. The next floods will come in September. Okay, cool. So this land right here on this tile is 94% fertile. Whereas if you go to one of the lighter kind of middle areas, this one's 75% fertile. So fertility will affect the yield on those farms. I believe the max yield is 800 on one of these farms. And it kind of depends on how long they've been there, and also for how long. How long the workers have been working that farm, and also how much fertility it has. So let's go ahead and do that, and we'll just close this. We'll throw our granary in here as well, and we'll put in a third work camp, purely because I want to get these up and running as fast as possible. We may need to actually have two granaries here. I'm being a little bit overzealous, and I wouldn't do this on the original Pharaoh where I play on hard, on very hard. But I think on here it's okay. So we'll just do that, because you get a little bit more cash in this version of Pharaoh. We don't have to cut quite as many corners. Cool. And then we'll just use this existing road down here, and we'll just build this out. Make sure that's 4. It is 4. It's great. And we'll just do that. And so these roadblocks basically turn this whole area into one loop. And loops are really important in Pharaoh for the worker dynamic to work properly. I'll leave this spot here for my bazaar, and I'll throw down a physician. And it looks like there's an apothecary there as well, but it's not available to us for some reason. Cool. everyone can move in. And as they come in, they should start working in those work camps. And indeed, there we go. These farms are now starting to work away, which is wonderful. We've got a temple worker walking around, not really doing an awful lot right now, apart from making sure that Osiris is not angry. Cool. Awesome. What are our objectives for this one again? Okay, population of 600 and 10 modest homesteads. So that will require us to have pottery to get 10 modest homesteads. Cool. And yeah, you can see a little bit here. So that even though these three here were all started at the same time, these guys are already onto their 4th tile. This guy's still working his 3rd tile. And so it's a little bit kind of, it does show you visually the speed at which these farms are getting their production going, which is really cool. I do like that quite a lot, when you get that kind of visual feedback in game. So we're getting pops. Yeah. And these are just saying that there's unemployment in the city, which is fine. It's what we expect to see. I could, in theory, throw down some more work camps, but I could do it. I could actually do this around, because that's not going to stop the road access to this granary, right? So as long as it's a loop, I'm not too stressed. So we'll go ahead, even if it's like a half loop like this, where it ends. Unemployment's really bad in this game. It really causes people to get quite annoyed. So I tend to try to avoid it as much as possible. And we can throw down more fig farms. These ones don't really matter, and they won't get much in terms of yields, particularly this late in the year. But that's fine. With 2 granaries, this should be absolutely fine. There's a maximum of 800 they can get, and we've got 2, 4, 6, 8. So even if they all got max, that would fill up both of these granaries, but I don't think any of them will hit 800 this year. Yeah, so they're now starting to harvest. You can see kind of they're scooping. The actions have changed from kind of like tilling the land to scooping and cutting away at the plants. And they'll do this for 2 months before the floods come, or 1 month before the flood comes. And then we need to set these to accept all again. That could have been fun if we'd forgotten to do that and weren't looking. And now you see these farms are now looking a little bit worse for wear, and they're now actually 6% fertile, which is really bad. So hopefully Osiris will bless us with a nice flood. And you can always check the upcoming flood by opening the nilometer here. And it will say the next flood should be perfect. So that should mean that actually the floodplain is completely inundated all the way to the edge. It'll all be water, which will be really good. So now that we've got some food in, oh, okay, well, we've got malaria. So malaria overlay shows which houses are more likely to succumb to this illness. Clean water from a water supply and insect repellent from a local apothecary reduce the risk of malaria. So again, we're on a map with these kind of reeds here. We need to be careful of malaria. So we'll go ahead and throw down our apothecary. We'll also throw down, I think we'll put down 2 bazaars. So 1 on each side. And we'll just say buy figs. Don't buy pottery yet, because we don't have pottery started. We can do that. And I'm going to throw down a juggler's school. I'm going to put it here. Again, same idea as before. This already has access to a fire station and an architect's post. So it makes sense to throw it down here. and just avoid the need to put down more firehouses than we need to. So the floods have come, and it is pretty much perfect. There's only really kind of this patch here that's missing. In fact, I think on the entire map. Yep. So that's cool. Just a little spot there. And we'll just ×5 get this food into the bazaars, and they're walking around and they're upgrading these houses here. They're having some issues with desirability. I'm hoping that we'll have access to beautification at some point. But for now, we'll just suck it up. And well, we could maybe throw down a temple. So temples are one of those buildings that do provide beauty that we have access to. In fact, it might be the only building that we have. Our village palace as well, we'll do it. Could do a village palace. We'll do a temple, they're a lot cheaper. And you can see that these houses have now upgraded to rough cottages. And we're going to throw down a booth. I'm going to put it inside this time. Not for any real reason, just to kind of shake it up a little bit. We'll put a booth there. And I'm going to put in another booth on this side. Right there. Why not? So booths can burn down. So we'll put a firehouse here too. And they'll just service this entire area. I could put a roadblock there. I'm not going to bother. It doesn't really matter too much. Cool. And now we get to put our first industry down. So 3 clay pits can supply enough clay for 4 potters. Roughly. So build a storage yard, as well as any excess clay the potters need. Generally speaking, that's not a great idea. Clay, unless you're exporting clay, this is totally fine. So we can just go for a storage yard and some clay. So the clay requires access to the water, or at least a floodplain for the access to clay. So you can see here, I can't place it here. If you go over here, I can. So it just needs to be close to water. So I think probably, I normally put it down here, but I think we'll mix it up. And again, the idea is basically that we sort of keep this separate from everything. So put a firehouse and an architect's post. And this is essentially, it's a loop with a little bit of a tail. Right now, I could do that. I'll do that. So now it's a total loop. And so these firehouses and architects will just walk around in a very small area and service all of these buildings, which is going to be really, really good and helpful for that. So store some pottery in a storage yard is our next thing. Workforce and unemployment. So you have to make sure that your population, you have more population than job openings. However, not everyone in your city is able to work. So a new era simulates an aging population where only 60% of the 20 to 49-year-olds are available for work. So you can switch to a fixed worker ratio, but we do play with the kind of default aging. It does make things a little bit tricky. So basically, after about 20 to 30 in-game years, your population will experience kind of a crisis where a lot of your initial kind of residents are too old to work anymore. And so you kind of have to space out your housing developments over time to kind of keep that under control. So right now we've got about half population that can work. We've got a few job openings, but we have immigrants coming in, so I'm not too worried about that. We can always look in the overview of the workers and see where those job openings are. So hygiene, we have a space open in the water supply. I've got a few slots open in clay pits and potters, and juggle schools and booths, it's fine. And this chief overseer will show kind of an overview of everything that's going on, and you can always get a more kind of a more in-depth look by going to each of these overseers on the side here. You can. This is my favorite menu, Overseer of Commerce. You can go in here and export goods if you're available to do that. You can stockpile resources and all that good stuff. And this here, the census, will show kind of the split of ages in your population. So on the on this x-axis, there we go. It'll show the age of your oldest person. In this case, it's 50, and then kind of the where on the bell curve the average is. So in this case, it's like 20 to 30 is most of our pops, which is good. I do call them pops. It's a holdover from other games that I've played where they are referred to as pops. If you ever played Stellaris, you'll know that's the preferred kind of terminology for it. And I am going to say accept all pottery in here. So all this clay goes into the potters, and then from the potters it goes into these storage yards here. I'm a little bit concerned that we're actually going to be out of food. So I'm going to put it down. I think we'll just do it over here. So, fun fact about granaries is you don't need them. So what I've been playing around with in Pharaoh and New Era in particular is the idea of just using storage yards for all of our food. It doesn't, I believe it doesn't work in the original Pharaoh. And in fact, what I'll do here, so we'll have one storage yard for pottery, and then one here for excuse me, for figs. Let's get the one there as well. And again, it's on the loop, and so this firehouse worker, he'll pass, and then he'll clear any fire risk from this guy. And it requires 0 infrastructure investment from us to do that. All of our floods are set to be perfect, which is great. Cool. And then we're on to beautification, so we can do gardens, statues, and plazas to help houses evolve, which is great. So we can go ahead and start doing that. So you see how this road here looks a little bit different. It allows us to place plazas, so we can hover over, and the plaza symbol lights up. It's no longer red, and we'll just go ahead and do that. Entertainment coverage. A booth provides perfect coverage for 600 people. Oh, didn't actually know that. That's cool. And so you sort of might need more booths as your population increases. And one other thing as well, you see this bazaar over here looks a bit different from this one. So this has it's desirable enough around this bazaar that it's upgraded. And an upgraded bazaar will send out 2 bazaar traders, so 2 walkers around the neighborhood to basically provide goods to the housing. Whereas the unupgraded will only send out 1. So it's quite a significant upgrade to do that. And so I think we'll try to get this one upgraded as well. There we go, and that has worked. And the same principle, I believe, applies to the water supply as well. So I'll try to get that looking pretty. That might not be enough, so I'll just do that as well. And that should hopefully get it up. There we go, look at that. Awesome, very good. And now we have these modest homesteads coming in. And that is the end of the mission.
Citizens are beginning to look to you as their caretaker, and neighboring cities also hail you as a provider in times of need.
Awesome. So that is the first 3 missions done in the Pharaoh series. So these are kind of what I consider to be the tutorial missions. There are a few other sort of small tutorials as we go through the game in the next few missions, but more or less we'll have a lot more control over what we do and how we build things going forward. Hi, Nedamvoy here. Thank you so much for watching. Likes, comments, and subscriptions really help out the channel, but if you'd rather move on to my next video straight away, you can find it on screen now. We'll see you in the next one.